I'm going to try it on this old computer and see if it works. Johnson records of himself this year. Between Easter and Whitsuntide, having always considered that time as propitious to study, I attempted to learn the Low Dutch language. It is to be observed that he here admits an opinion of the human mind being influenced by seasons, which he ridicules in his writings. His progress, he says, was interrupted by a fever, which, by the imprudent use of a small print, left an inflammation in his useful eye. Which, by the imprudent, We cannot but admire his spirit when we know that amidst a complication of bodily and mental distress, he was still animated with the desire of intellectual improvement. Various notes of his studies appear on different days in his manuscript diary of this year, such as, here's a very long, about 4 lines of Latin, which I will not read, but just read the translation. Began reading the Pentateuch, finished the Confucio Fabulae Bernardum, read the first act of Trotus, read Clarke's last dissertation on the Pentateuch, 2 of Clarke's sermons, read the Bebricon, and then there's Sic Betriciam is a misreading, in Apollonius, read 100 lines of Homer. Let this serve as a specimen of what accessions of literature he was perpetually infusing into his mind while he charged himself with idleness. This year died Mrs. Salisbury, mother of Mrs. Thrale, a lady whom he appears to have esteemed much and whose memory he honored with an epitaph. In a letter from Edinburgh, dated the 29th of May, I pressed him to persevere in his resolution to make this year the projected visit to the Hebrides, of which he and I had talked for many years, and which I was confident would afford us much entertainment. To James Boswell, Esquire. This is his reply. Dear sir, when your letter came to me, I was so darkened by an inflammation in my eye that I could not for some time read it. I can now write without trouble and can read large print. My eye is gradually growing stronger, and I hope will be able to take some delight in the survey of a Caledonian loch. Chambers is going to judge with 6,000 a year to Bengal. Chambers is going a judge with 6,000 a year to Bengal. He and I shall come down together as far as Newcastle, and thence I shall easily get to Edinburgh. Let me know the exact time when your courts intermit. I must conform a little to Chambers's occasions, and he must conform a little to mine. The time which you shall fix must be the common point to which we will come as near as we can. Except this I am very well. Beattie is so caressed and invited and treated and liked and flattered by the great that I can see nothing of him. I am in great hope that he will be well provided for, and then we will live upon him at the Marischal College without pity or modesty. There's a blank here for a name, and a later footnote tells us this is Langton. Langton left the town without taking leave of me, and has gone in deep dudgeon to, and blank again, and it says Lankin in Lincolnshire. Is this not very childish? Where is now my legacy? I hope your dear lady and her dear baby are both well. I shall see them too when I come. And I have that opinion of your choice as to suspect that when I have seen Mrs. Boswell, I shall be less willing to go away. I am, dear sir, your affectionate humble servant, Johnson Court, Fleet Street, Sam Johnson, July 5th, 1773. Write to me as soon as you can. Chambers is now at Oxford. I again wrote to him, informing him that the Court of Session rose on the 12th of August, hoping to see him before that time, and expressing perhaps in too extravagant terms my admiration of him and my expectation of pleasure from our intended tour. This is the reply. To James Boswell, Esquire. Dear Sir, I shall set out from London on Friday the 6th of this month and propose not to loiter much on the way. Which day I shall be at Edinburgh I cannot exactly tell. I suppose I must drive to an inn and send a porter to find you. I am afraid Beatty will not be at his college soon enough for us, and I shall be sorry to miss him. But there is no staying for the concurrence of all conveniences. We will do as well as we can. I am, sir, your most humble servant, August 3rd, 1773, Sam Johnson. To the same. Dear Sir, not being at Mr. Thrale's when your letter came, I had written the enclosed paper and sealed it. Bringing it hither for Frank, I found yours. If anything could repress my ardor, it would be such a letter as yours. To disappoint a friend is unpleasing, and he that forms expectations like yours must be disappointed. Think only when you see me that you see a man who loves you and is proud and glad that you love him. I am, sir, your most affectionate, August 3rd, 1773, Sam Johnson. To the same. This is from Newcastle, August 11th, 1773. Dear Sir, I came hither last night in hope, but do not absolutely promise to be in Edinburgh on Saturday. Beatty will not come so soon. I am, sir, your most humble servant. My compliments to your lady, Sam Johnson. To the same. Mr. Johnson sends his compliments to Mr. Boswell, being just arrived at Boyd's, Saturday night. Johnson's stay in Scotland was from the 18th of August, on which day he arrived, till the 22nd in November, when he set out on his return to London. Well, that's a pretty good long time. And I believe 94 days was never passed by any man in a more vigorous exertion. He came by the way of Berwick upon Tweed to Edinburgh, where he remained a few days, and then went by St. Andrews, Aberdeen, Inverness, and Fort Augustus to the Hebrides, to a visit which was the principal object he had in view. I should point out at this point, I don't know if it's actually pronounced Hebrides. I think it is, but I didn't check. I have no idea. Because I'm just thinking that because I'm looking at Edinburgh, and I think I'm pronouncing that correct. And if I just look at it the way it's spelled, it looks like it should be Edinburgh or something like that. So keep that in mind. But I think it's Hebrides. I feel like I've heard that before. But I'm no scholar. I'm just a guy who reads a very long book. Anyway, where was I? To visit which was the principal object he had in view, the Hebrides. Johnson visited the Isles of Skye, Rossay, Cull, Mull, Inchkenneth, and Ickhamkill. He traveled through Argyllshire by Inverary, and from thence by Loch Lomond and Dunbarton to Glasgow, then by London to Auchinleck, in Ayrshire, the seat of my family, and then by Hamilton back to Edinburgh, where he again spent some time. He thus saw the 4 universities of Scotland and its three principal cities, and as much of the Highland and insular life as was sufficient for his philosophical contemplation. I had the pleasure of accompanying him during this whole of this journey. He was respectfully entertained by the great, the learned, and the elegant, wherever he went, nor was he less delighted with the hospitality which he experienced in humbler life. His various adventures and the force and vivacity of his mind, as exercised during this peregrination, a word I've never heard before, peregrination, Peregrination, upon innumerable topics, have been faithfully and to the best of my abilities displayed in my journal of a tour of the Hebrides, available on Amazon, to which, as the public has been pleased to honor it by very extensive circulation, I beg leave to refer as to a separate and remarkable portion of his life, which may be there seen in detail, and which exhibits as striking a view of his powers in conversation as his works do of his excellence in writing. There's a footnote here. The author is not a small gainer by this extraordinary journey, Dr. Johnson thus writes to Mrs. Thrale. This is a different editor. This isn't Boswell talking. November 3rd, 1773. Boswell will praise my resolution and perseverance, and I shall in return celebrate his good humor and perpetual cheerfulness. He has better faculties than I had imagined, more justness of discernment and more fecundity of images. It is very convenient to travel with him, for there is no house where he is not received with kindness and respect. Back to the book in hand. Nor can I deny to myself the very flattering gratification of inserting here the character which my friend Mr. Courtenay has been pleased to give me of that work, being the Journal of a Tour of the Hebrides. With Reynolds's pencil, vivid, bold, and true, so fervent Boswell gives his to our view. Oh, it's rhyming poem, I forgot. In every trait we see his mind expand, the master rises by the pupil's hand. We love the writer, praise his happy vein, graced with the naivety of the sage Montaigne. Hence, not alone are brighter parts displayed, but in the specks of character portrayed, we see the rambler with fastidious smile, mark the lone tree, and note the heath-clad isle. But when the heroic tales of Flora charms, decked in a kilt he wields a chieftain's arms. The tuneful piper sounds a martial strain, and Samuel sings, "The king shall have his zane." Well, at least that one rhymed. During his stay at Edinburgh, after his return from the Hebrides, Johnson was at great pains to obtain information concerning Scotland, and it will appear from his subsequent letters that he was not less solicitous for intelligence on this subject after his return to London. To James Boswell, Esquire. Dear Sir, I came home last night without any incommodity, danger, or weariness, and am ready to begin a new journey. I shall go to Oxford on Monday. I know Mrs. Boswell wished me well to go. Her wishes have not been disappointed. Mrs. Williams has received Sir A.'s letter. Make my compliments to all those whom my compliments may be welcome. Let the box be sent as soon as it can, and let me know when to expect it. Inquire, if you can, the order of the clans. MacDonald is first, Maclean second. Further I cannot go. Quicken, Dr. Webster. I am, sir, yours affectionately, November 27, 1773, Sam Johnson. Now, we have a good deal of footnotes to go through here. Number one, when Mrs. Boswell wished him to go to Oxford, there's a footnote that says, in this he showed a very acute penetration. My wife paid him the most assiduous and respectful attention while he was our guest, so that I wonder how he discovered her wishing for his departure. The truth is that his irregular hours and uncouth habits, such as turning the candles with their heads downwards when they did not burn bright enough, and letting the wax drop upon the carpet, could not but be disagreeable to a lady. Besides, she had not that high admiration of him which was held by most of those who knew him. And what was very natural to a female mind, she thought he had too much influence over her husband. She once, in a little warmth, made, with some more point than justice, this remark upon the subject. I have seen many a bear led by a man, but I never before saw a man led by a bear. And then there's a footnote that says, for Sir A.'s letter, this is referring to Sir Alexander Gordon, one of the professors at Aberdeen. And then a footnote for the box that he wants being sent. This was a box containing a number of curious things which he had picked up in Scotland, particularly some horn spoons. And then the last footnote, Dr. Webster. The Reverend Dr. Alexander Webster, one of the ministers of Edinburgh, a man of distinguished abilities, who had promised him information concerning the Highlands of Islands and Islands of Scotland. Anyway, I'm going to cut it a little short today just because I'm not sure if this is going to update properly, and I don't want to waste any more time on it. Till next time, bye from Boswell.